Hey, how's it going, class? This is Mr. Miles coming to the podcast. Today's podcast, what we're going to be talking about is evolution. Oh, where am I? There we are. Evolution. Exclamation point. It's kind of like an 8, but it's supposed to be an exclamation point, so shut up about it. Okay, so let's talk about evolution. Let's talk about its origins, exactly what it is, and the man that we put behind it. We put Darwin behind it. So many of you know Charles Darwin, and you know the story of Darwin. He was on a boat. Boat went through the water. Here he is on his boat, smiling and waving at you. And as he went on his voyage, he took it around the world. So here's a beautiful picture of the world. And as he went around the world, he noticed many different things. The big patterns that he would see was that depending on the environment, you'd have different adaptations in animals. So what I mean by that is he could go to an island in the South Pacific here and find birds that were similar to an island maybe in the Atlantic. And if the islands were similar in vegetation, so like different types of trees and grass and stuff like that, he would find birds that were very similar, that both seemed to be very suited for that island. However, if you went somewhere that was different from that island, let's say somewhere more north, and maybe it was a little bit colder, he'd find a different type of bird. So let's draw a bird like this. A different type of bird than the birds that he's finding down here. So this leads Darwin to come up with his most famous of all of his things. And so this is the theory of evolution. Okay, so we're just going to talk a little bit about exactly what that is. So remember, evolution is just simply change over time. And I like to say change over time through reproduction, because what you're going to have is you're going to have two parents. They're going to sexually reproduce. Remember, sexual reproduction is really important because it leads to variation. So it leads to variation. It can lead to this change that takes place over time. But there's some other factors that have to go into it in order for all of this to work out. So the first factor that needs to come into it is something called natural selection. Natural. Okay, and so what this is simply saying is this is saying that nature will select. Wow, that's incredibly easy. So what it's going to do is it's going to select the best competitor. So let's say we're on an island and we have different types of birds. Let's say we have birds with big fat beaks like this. Let's say we have birds with long skinny beaks like this. Let's say we have birds with tiny little beaks like this. Let's say we have birds with really big hooked beaks. And let's say we have a whole bunch of these. Let's say we have 100 of these type of birds. Let's say we have 30 of these type of birds. Let's say we have 20 of these. And let's say we have 80 of these. Okay, and let's say that on this island there are cracks in the ground. There's cracks that run all along the ground everywhere. And what the birds like to eat more than anything else, let's say food's scarce, they like to eat these seeds. But when these seeds fall, they fall inside the cracks in the ground. And they fall deep inside those cracks. Well, which bird out of these four is going to be able to have the easiest time getting at those seeds? Well, you're going to say, well, this guy right here. Now, even though not all the seeds are going to fall in cracks, only some of them, but these 30 birds are going to be able to get any seeds that fall inside of here, whereas these guys are going to be competing over. So this guy, and this guy's got a fat head, so he can't get in there. These guys are going to be competing over the seeds that just simply fall on the ground. So you're going to have competition. So nature is going to select the bird with the best adaptation. So that's this bird right here. So because he has this long type of beak, he's able to have sex more. It's important. He's going to be able to reproduce more. And so because he's able to eat a lot more food, he has to worry a lot less about finding food, and he's full more often and can go and find females. He's going to be able to reproduce more, and so he's going to be able to pass on his genes. Now, if you remember, it goes like this. So here's the male bird with that really long beak, and let's say here's a female bird, and let's say she just has a normal-sized beak. Okay, so this guy's being able to eat a lot, so he's able to reproduce. And so remember, he's got his two sets of alleles right here. She's got her two sets. She's going to donate one. He's going to donate one, and they're going to have an offspring of a baby with a long beak. And he's going to be able to carry on the same tradition. He's going to find himself a mate, and because he's got two alleles, she's got two alleles, He's going to take this one, he's going to pass it on, she's going to take this one, pass it on. And this tradition is going to keep on going, so then eventually what you're going to see is, so remember originally I drew that this guy's 100, this one's 80, this one's 30, this one's 20, is that these guys' numbers are actually going to go down because they're not able to reproduce as much, whereas these guys' numbers are going to go up. The percentage that they have in the environment is going to go up by quite a bit. So, the things that are at play here when we're talking about Darwin's evolution is you have the overall idea of evolution, which is simply that change over time. Well, how does that change take place? That change takes place over natural selection. And natural selection is just simply the idea that whoever has the best adaptation is able to reproduce more, which will cause a change in the alleles, which is evolution. So remember, evolution is caused by natural selection, which is picking up the best adaptations, so that way they can reproduce more. When you reproduce more and have more offspring, you're going to see a change in the population. Well, the big question is, well, what the crap? Why don't all the birds look exactly the same? Why would any of this, especially natural selection, even take place? Well, that's because we got to remember that mutations occur. And this actually wouldn't be discovered until after Charles Darwin. Okay, now he knew something was going on here. He knew that there was something going on with the birds where you're going to have different types. He also looked at tortoises where there's different types. But mutation is the linchpin. It's the big thing that causes these big changes. So mutation is simply any change in the DNA. So if we remember DNA, so here's my crappily drawn double helix. So there's my double helix molecule. And so there's the DNA, and it's made up of base pairs. So on one side you have A, T, T, C, C, G. Okay, and then on the opposite side, because remember at KIG, A goes to T, C goes to G. So A, T, and then A, and G, and G, and C. And so we see that these all match up. Well, every once in a while mistakes are made. So instead of an A, maybe we accidentally insert a C that shouldn't be there. Now that simple C, you may go, oh, okay, well whatever, that's not a big deal. Or possibly maybe these things get wiped out altogether, and that's a deletion. You know that this changes the sequence that the mRNA is going to come in and copy down. So the mRNA will come in, look at this, and now it's a tad bit different because this changed. And with that change, it's going to take that out to the ribosomes. So it takes that change out to the ribosomes, and now you're going to make a completely different type of protein. And remember, protein. And remember, it's proteins that make up your structure. So your hair, your fingernails, your skin, your cells, all this stuff is made up of different types of proteins. If you change the protein, you can change what the physical appearance is. Maybe there's protein that causes a hormone to make your beak grow a little bit larger, or maybe a little bit stubbier, or maybe a little bit wider. It just depends on what that mutation is. Remember, these mutations take place all the time inside of your bodies. Most of them don't do anything, but every once in a while something will do something. So it's that mutation. So when we look back here at, well, how does natural selection even occur? It's all because of this guy. Mutation. So the next time you look at your opposable thumbs, you look at your blue eyes, you look at your mostly hairless body. I mean, if you got hair kind of everywhere, it's just smaller, but we're not furry like monkeys. We have to think a few things. We have to think, number one, we have to think the overall idea. Where the frick is my pen? We have to think the overall idea of evolution, which allows us to have change over time through reproduction. That can only take place because random mutations happen, and they are random. And since those mutations are random, nature can select whichever ones are the best. Now when nature selects the best ones, what it's looking for is the best adaptation for your environment. Our environment called for us to have opposable thumbs and also to have a lot less hair inside on our bodies. And when that happened, we were able to reproduce more because we had a better adaptation, which made more offspring, which was the whole idea behind evolution. So hopefully that made sense. If it did not make sense, watch it again. If that still doesn't make sense, watch it one more time. If that still doesn't make sense, make sure you come talk to me in class, because you might be having a problem with it. All right, until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. All right, bye.